Hey everybody, welcome back to week 2, day 2. Yesterday, started talking a little bit about, finding that passion, that purpose, how you can be able to help maybe a small deserving nonprofit. We gave the example of like Humane Society, which was just an example. You don't have to work with the Humane Society. You can find your own place. You can actually even create your own solutions. That was not to dissuade anyone to wanting to start their own thing. But a lot of times at our age, at your age that you're taking this right now, it's okay to learn from others and then also kind of peek in and see how other people are running it. And then maybe what you would do differently. I wouldn't recommend them, you telling them what they're doing wrong by any means, but you finding those organizations that might already need your help. And I'm telling you, in talking about the SMART goals, that relevant time right now is there's never been a more relevant time. Matter of fact, going back to what we said last week, that opportunities are everywhere mindset rings true, but always remember the difference between knowing an opportunity and being opportunistic. I've seen a lot of people try to be opportunistic and the cliche example of, hoarding toilet paper and trying to sell it at inflated prices. It is a very, very short-term game. And I want to talk to you also when you get to know Jeff Hoffman. We'll even kind of go into those things. So I want to be really brief on today's lesson and hand it over to Jeff because I'm telling you, you're going to love what he has to say. But really today is, more of that time for, hopefully you've talked about with your parents or some loved ones or some people online, maybe even on the Facebook the LinkedIn group. But your scope and audience roadmap. You need an audience a lot of times to do some of these things. Why? Because you're going to gather feedback and you're going to be able to, bounce off of them what you're thinking and what you might be doing. In week 1, we talked about the Roth IRA, right? That T was tussle. Open discussions and tussling are okay at this point. So if you told people, hey, I've got this great idea we're going to start and it's going to be awesome, expect some open discussion and tussling. That's okay. Getting upset about it is not going to help anybody. You going, you know what? That's valuable feedback and thank you. I appreciate that. You'll blow people away, actually. So you having that time to understand on your roadmap is who am I trying to aim? Am I trying to get feedback? In the example we gave of the Humane Society, you might want to target people and groups that like dogs or cats or organizations that are already doing something. Or, get on the Next Door Neighbor app and say, hey, do you have a dog? Do you want to help us kind of thing? But knowing who your people are, your audience, is really important thing at this point. And then also just understanding that how to find and build the audience is really important at your age now too. I've said this several times, and I'll say it with Jeff here in a second. There's never been a better time to be a young person. Right now, you're different in the sense that you're taking a course when you could be just online doing nothing. The fact that you might want to start something and then actually follow through with it is going to be insanely helpful. Matter of fact, in day 5, we start talking to Dennis Yu on skills and traits you can use that if you start something amazing, social media will want to pick up on it. We've all seen news stories here recently on people making a difference. Why not have that person make the difference you, right? So once again, going through in your neighborhood, in your region, in your school, who needs that help? You've kind of narrowed it down. Hopefully you've had some discussions, but now you're building an audience. Who might want to pitch in? Who in your wheelhouse? Who might have some passion to join with you? Because building that team is really super, super, super important. All right. As promised, I'm going to shut up now so you can listen to Jeff Hoffman. Follow this guy. Take his advice. Drink it in. In a world of a lot of people talking about what they're going to do, Jeff has done. And I am honored to bring you his message. Enjoy. All right. I have been looking forward to this for a while. Jeff Hoffman is a mentor, a guide, a sage. Every time I turn on the TV, I see your face here recently. But I've done now 300 episodes of the show. Episode 2.
I didn't realize you've done that many.
I'm a busy guy, Jeff.
Yes,
but I
sure.
still, when people are like, oh, you have a podcast, which one should I start with? I'm like, easy. Start with There Is No They, episode 2. So anyway, Jeff Hoffman, make your introductions, and then we're going to jump right into it.
All right. Well, again, Don, thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love what you do and what you focus on. My name is Jeff Hoffman. I am a longtime serial entrepreneur, been building companies my whole life. Today, I serve as the chairman of something called the Global Entrepreneurship Network, where we work with entrepreneurs and support entrepreneurs in 180 different countries, trying to help people turn ideas into things. If you have an idea, let's turn it into a profitable and growing business.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
I love what you do. So, you know what? In a day and age where we keep talking and people saying, well, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Okay. Know people. And I will say that, Jeff, you are among the most connected persons I know. And I'm going to say these things because you are always beyond humble. But Jeff keeps making connections because he brings value to people first. I will say that full stop.
Don, I got to jump all over that, because one of the things I always talk about is, if you want to live an epic life and you want to be around whatever your definition of cool people you want to be around is, that is exactly the solution. You have to become valuable to the people that you want to be around. And you become valuable to the people you want to be around by solving a problem that they have that they can't solve. So every time I've wanted to be in an industry, whether it was music, film, sports, or tech, my focus was, what problem do a lot of people have that they haven't solved, that I could solve for them, that would make me valuable to them, so that those were the people that were calling me. I think you've heard me say this in the music biz, for example. I've become really close friends with Pitbull, the rapper. And that all started originally when, I got a call, and I'm a fan of Pitbull. He's a wonderful human being. Forget music. He's a great guy. But, the guy reached out one day and said, I need some advice on something. And people say you're the go-to guy. So for all your listeners, you got to become the go-to guy or the go-to girl to the people you want to be around. And you become that go-to person by having something they need. And the something they need is the solution to some problem they don't know how to solve. So thanks for bringing that up, because that's definitely the underlying philosophy.
Your reputation precedes you. So here we stand. I know we talked about this off air, but the whole purpose of doing a lot of this is that my fear was, when this whole epidemic started, that people weren't going to see this as an opportunity. All right. That as soon as I was blessed to get this whole idea. It was like, I had a lot of teachers like, hey, we didn't have time for your innovation curriculum. Could you throw out some stuff for my students? And it was 3, 4, 5 teachers. And then now, the first day we had 200 signups. So we're excited about that. Wow, the only thing that concerns me is that I hope that students watching this, teachers watching this, aren't going to treat this as compliance. You should be here because you want to be, not because you were forced to be. That being said, I'm also asking them to participate and collaborate a little bit more on LinkedIn. We're going to have a group to see if we can get things done. But one of your quotes, and I'm going to have you tell the quotes, but basically, your good idea is great. You executing is everything. And you have a better way of putting that.
Sure. But we're going to... It was written on my office door for many years, where it said, ideas are welcome here, but execution is worshipped. And the reason that I said that is, everybody talks. Everybody is on the couch Friday night saying, oh no, this time I'm really going to do it. I'm going to leave, I'm going to start this idea. I'm going to go design it, draw it, build it, whatever. And almost everybody talks and very few people do something. So a lot of times you'd be very surprised, for your listeners, that the people that you see that are most successful, you try to convince yourself, well, she's just way smarter than me, or he had money or whatever. They're not smarter than you. They're not better than you. They didn't have advantages you didn't. The difference is they just got going. Everybody else was talking and they just jumped in. And the analogy I always use is, you just got to pick up a shovel and start digging. And what most people do is, they're inside the house, they're looking out, right? And I always use this expression, you're digging the path to your own better future. Most people are like, well, it's kind of hot outside. Maybe I'll wait till it's cooler. And my shovel's kind of old. I don't know if I have the right size shovel. And then they may go step outside later and say, well, the dirt looks really hard. Maybe this isn't a good place to dig. and I don't know where the power lines are, and I don't know where the water lines are. What if there's rocks? They never do anything. They just keep talking about one day they're going to dig that path. The successful people picked up a shovel, stepped out, and started digging. You know what happens when you start digging? What I mean by that is just start something. You don't know, we know that you don't know how to build this idea you have. So just start somewhere. Start anywhere. But here's what happens when you start digging. You're outside and somebody walks by and says, "What are you doing?" And you say, "Oh, I'm digging this path over there." And they say, "Well, I wouldn't dig to your left. That's where the power lines are. I used to work for the power company. Let me mark them for you." And then someone else comes and says, "What are you doing?" And you say, "I'm digging this path." And they say, "You know, there's rocks over that direction. You should move to the right a little." And someone else comes, "What are you digging?" "I'm digging this path." They say, "Man, I want that path. Can I grab my shovel and come back?" And suddenly someone's digging beside you. Nothing happens until you say, "I'm just going to start. I don't know any of the answers. I'm just going to dig in and see what happens." All the answers come when you actually launch.
That's the leadership of just doing it. To be like, oh, I love it. You're always energizing when I talk to you. Yes, because you do. Some people just are waiting for you, like, because they didn't even realize that path you were starting to dig. They're like, "Son of a gun! You know what? That is good. How can I join? How can I help?" Um,
Absolutely. That's when people jump in when they see you doing it. And again, you just have to overcome that fear of the fact that we already know you don't know the answers. Almost everybody that created something amazing in the world, if you ask them to tell you the story, they'll say, "I actually had no idea what I was doing when I started, and I made adjustments on the way." But you can't adjust your course while you're still in the parking lot. You can adjust your course while you're out there on the highway.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're now in week 2. Students are watching this, and I've asked them, okay, now start scanning your world. I had them kind of take an assessment of where their passions lie, but also where their talents lie. Okay, who out there? And I've even gently encouraged, like, hey, maybe it's not even your mission that you're inventing. Maybe it's your local humane society. Maybe it's your local opioid crisis center. What can you bring value to, and how can you pair up your talents and passions and do something? One of the things that's always important in this phase, though, is getting feedback without taking it too personally and getting something validated, right? Could you talk to me about in your journey how you got validation on what you were doing was right
Sure.
and how you accepted this feedback?
Sure, absolutely. And two things you brought up really important there. The first one is leave your ego, check your ego at the door. Um, if you can't take the fact that you might actually have a dumb idea, and people might even laugh at you and say, "Ah, Jeff, you thought that was such a good idea and it was stupid." You have to be able to shake it off and say, "You're right, I'm an idiot. You guys are right. You'll have another idea tomorrow." So you have to be able to shake it off and get over it. All your ideas are not brilliant, and you have to accept that from the beginning. The worst thing that happens to some people is ego. They won't let go of a bad idea because they refuse to admit they're wrong. So they waste 2 years of their life building something that no one ever wanted anyway. So that's lesson one, is get over it, right? So many people that failed so many times on their way to success. It's just part of the process. Shake it off. But the second part you said, the feedback. So Don, I was on this TV show with these CEOs, and the host said, "As a leader, what's the first thing you do when you have a good idea?" And all of them said, "Oh, I get my team and we go in the conference room." And I said, "I get my keys and I go to the parking lot." And they're like, "What?" The first thing you need to do is leave wherever you are and go out and find that customer, the person you think is going to buy it. Stop listening to your friends, your family,
Mm,
or anybody that's not the actual end user. I'm going to give you a real example from the music world. Early on, because I worked a lot with a friend of mine, Chris Kirkpatrick, is the kid that started NSYNC. And so I worked over the years a lot with NSYNC. At the beginning, when Chris had the idea for this music group and he called this kid Justin Timberlake, etc., they went to all the record labels. The record label executives, to be honest, were middle-aged white guys. Most all of them at the time said, "Let me understand this. You are 5 boys, you don't play instruments, you don't have a band, you just wear sparkly pants, twirl around and sing," right? And the boys were, "Yes, that's our plan." And they said, "That's stupid. No one wants to hear that." So basically, on the first pass, every major record label passed on NSYNC, and even on Backstreet Boys and even on Britney back then. And there was a guy, Barry Weiss, in a label, Jive, smart enough to say, well, who's going to buy this music? And the answer was not middle-aged white
the
guys.
middle-aged white guys.
Teenage girls and their moms, because girls can't buy concert tickets at that age. So his team had the smarts to go to teenage girls and their moms and say, what do you think of this? And show them Justin Timberlake and the boys in their sparkly pants. And the market, the actual customer said, oh, I love it. I would take my kids to that concert. So Jive's the one that became the multi-billion-dollar label, and they were small before that because they went out immediately to get feedback from the right people. So if you have an idea, even if your mom thinks it's a bad idea, if your mom's not the one you're selling it to, you need to go find the people you think will buy this and ask them. And ask them, how would they buy it? What do they want? What would they pay? And accept, Don, to your original point, if they say, I don't think I'd pay for that, then it's probably time to move on.
Yeah.
Take feedback, listen to it, and get it early.
So that is a talent to not take it personally at first, but it's also understanding, some of your insights and trusting your insights. I had Kate Permel on kind of avoiding the imposter syndrome kind of thing. But even imposter syndrome aside, if you think that you have something that people want, well, then ask them. It could be that simple. Or quite frankly, and I know that you know this, in my class that I ran, we had a funny saying that we create seekers and peakers, not moaners and groaners. Mm-hmm. However, our moaners and groaners were really valuable because that's where we gauged what everybody was talking about. Everybody was talking about what's not fair of this, or it sucks that, or somebody ought to. And then a lot of times they're like, what the government should do. And then my kids would like wring their hands maniacally and was like, that's what I could do, because they know that the moaners and groaners are highlighting what's needed. And then seekers are seeking opportunities. And this is what I'm begging my students right now on this online course to do, is to become a peaker community. Because peaker communities, that means you can peek around the corner. You can see what's coming next. Because Jeff, your skill set is different from my skill set, but when we talk, we all of a sudden connect because you have an insight and I have an insight, and we see where they converge. That is where it gets exciting for me. So even if you think that if some of the middle-aged white guy record label exec is telling you that it's not a good idea, you can hear what the customers want because they're complaining. And then you can. In fact,
in that exact example, that was a time when there was some really heavy rap that was, anti the cops and stuff like that. And so there were groaners and moaners. They were saying, I don't want my children exposed to that product. I wish there was a safe, clean, upbeat product that was a positive message. They were moaning about the product offering and saying, I don't like that, I want something else. And because somebody listened to them, they created the product they actually wanted and steered away from the ones they were moaning about. So being a good listener, but being a good listener doesn't happen sitting on your couch. You got to go out in the world, and it doesn't have to be physically, right? It can be online, on email, on phone, on text, but you got to talk to people. You got to listen.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the feedback you want, don't be so quick to walk away. Sorry, Justin Timberlake lyrics. Thank you. No, I think that is so valuable. I think right now, if you're at home taking this course and you have that empathy that everybody else is with you, okay, what else could I provide? And that's been the challenge this week. What else? What are people complaining about? What do people need? And what can you do? And quite frankly, this is the last thing you can weigh in on. One of the first things we had in our first video is we have a rule of thirds in my class. Is that the rule number one was, are you passionate about it? Because if it's something you think you can make a quick buck on, if you're not passionate about it, you're not going to see your way through it. That first pivot you need to make, you're like, to heck with it. Rule number two, what skills are you going to acquire to get this thing done? So right now, this valued time, you're acquiring skills. Hopefully that's why you're taking this course, is that you're acquiring skills. And then number three is, who is it going to benefit other than you? I don't like the influencer generation of like, I'm going to flex and show my watch, and so you think that I'm a really big shot. That's not really benefiting anybody except for yourself.
Right.
That is a short-term gain that may seem appealing because that guy or that girl has a YouTube prank video, but these are all short-term things. How have you in your career always gone out and whether it's between the passion, you acquiring new skills, and then you providing services or things that people need, where does those ideas come from, and then how do you go through with that?
So they come from being engaged in the world, which is, like I said, means getting off the couch as much as you can. Obviously, during this moment of the virus, we can't, but in general, we can't do it as much physically. But it comes from being engaged with as many people in as many places as you can possibly be, connecting to people you wouldn't normally talk to. Now, while we have all this free time, right? While people are at home and online, connecting and talking to people that you never made the time to talk to before, that are in different worlds than you, and listening. So being out and exploring in the world, find, like you said, listening for the groans, finding a problem. But what most people do, what, I think what we've always focused on was what most people do when they see a problem is they do what everyone else does. They complain too. And then they go home. They're part of the moaners. And they say how bad something sucks, and then they go home. The successful entrepreneurs, the ones that are out there, hear that sound and say, wait, is this a big problem? Does everybody agree that it's a big problem? Is there some better way to fix it? And then they do something that no one else does. They own it, right? They take ownership and they say, I got this one. I have some friends who have been really successful because they encountered a problem. I'll give you 3 quick examples. A buddy of mine that was lost all the time, Lars. Lars used to get lost all the time and asked other people. This is back in the day of paper maps. And everybody was lost. And he was saying, even if you would print out back then a MapQuest routing, if you made the wrong turn or the road was closed, it was printed. What were you going to do? You couldn't use the route anymore. You didn't know what to do. So he heard everybody complaining about being lost. But what he said was, wait a minute, this is a big problem. Everyone's moaning. And he said, there's got to be a better way. And he started asking people, if I could create this, would you do it? Well, Lars is the guy that invented Google Maps, not Google. Google actually bought this technology from him. They bought it from my friend for like $1 billion. He's doing quite well now. There's another guy that wanted to hear a song one day, and people were complaining about it's hard to find music you like. And so the same story, he was in the problem. Lars was lost, so he created Google Maps to help himself and everybody that was lost when he asked people. The next guy, he wrote Pandora on his own phone because he was trying to find music and he couldn't find it. And all his friends said, yeah, it's such a problem. I wish someone would fix that. That's back to our there is no they, Don, right? People say, man, I wish they would create a better way. Lars didn't wait. So there's been a lot of cases. The creator of Instagram, Mike, it was hard to share photos and everybody was complaining. And he said, I got this one. So when you hear a problem and you talk to people and they all have it, you do the research and you say, I own this. I'm not leaving until I can fix this or prove that it can't be fixed. So Mike created Instagram. Those people all wound up being really successful because they didn't walk away like everybody else when they saw the problem. So whenever we see a problem, we try to say, is this a real problem? Do a lot of people have it? And can we fix it?
Can I add one more thing to that?
Sure.
They were all early. Because what I don't want people to get confused with is like somebody saying that I'm going to have the next Pandora 2.0. These guys were early and they were visionaries. They saw problems. And yes, there's been some copiers and some imitators, but they were early because their vision was on that. They were peakers.
Yes,
they were
That's
absolute
exactly
peakers.
Exactly the right term.
Because
we saw that because not only were they peeking at the problem, but they were peeking around the corner, right?
Right.
What Lars had to say was he read a story about how many cable TV satellites were in the sky. And he said, wait, what else could a satellite do that no one has thought of yet? So he was peeking into that future, saying, I bet you could get a satellite to see me, talk to 2 other satellites, triangulate my position, and tell me where to drive to. He was definitely peeking into the future. Each of them was.
Yeah. And here we are. I mean, you can do this at any time. Like peek into the future. What do you think these new, and I'm saying now to this to the students, we have a new reality, at least for the next couple of months, peek around the corner. What do you think? If people are complaining about this and people are asking for that, then what would you want to do?
Sure.
Whether that's being now thinking about real estate or thinking about education or thinking about services, peakers when? peakers win
Absolutely.
because. Go ahead.
People have a lot of brand new problems right now during these months that you should be thinking about. What things are people complaining about, and how do I fix them? And you
Yes.
are correct. The peakers are going to do it anyway, so why shouldn't it be you?
Right. Well, and then lastly, and this is again, your humility is knows something. You're very humble, but I think that one of the last things is that you recognize opportunities and not being opportunistic. People that are hoarding toilet paper and selling it on eBay, that's opportunistic. Opportunities of being a peaker is sustainable as well. And
Correct.
yeah, you have
You're right.
made.
The difference would be you. That's a great example. The difference would be one person is just personally hoarding all the toilet paper they can get. The other person is trying to design some new online distribution system to get toilet paper to everybody on time, so no one needs to hoard it anymore.
Yeah.
That person's going to have a sustainable solution. The other person
Is just
is
a
just going to
jerk.
have a toilet paper party one day.
Right. Jeff, I value you and your mentorship so much, and it has been a blessing to introduce more students to your work. Check out what Jeff's doing. His society there that he's growing, and then, like you said, he is in the business of hearing great ideas and knowing how to grow and scale them. So, I appreciate you, man.
You got it, Don. I really, really appreciate you and the work you do and the inspiration you give to students. And they can find me at jeff@jeffhoffman.com. And you and I will be talking again soon. Thanks.
We'll see you.